Well, Happy New Year, everybody. Advent starts our new year in the church, and so it might be time for some New Year's resolutions. And I think in a way, the reading that we have is partly to remind us of all that. Because we are so used to thinking of Advent as getting ready for Christmas, to receive Jesus as a little baby, to celebrate his birth, to remember how the angels came, to retell that whole story. But we always started in this way, with this reading that seems like it has nothing to do with Jesus coming as a little baby. It has to do with end times, apocalypse, scary things, the Son of God coming in the middle of clouds and judging the earth, and it's a little more startling, and I hope it gets our attention a little bit. And it happens every year. So every year on the first Sunday of Advent, it's nice when you have a seminarian who might preach for you, but so the other theme that we have 3 times already, I don't know if you noticed, in the opening sentences before we lit the candle, and in the hymn and in the collect, we have the phrase, "Cast away the works of darkness and put on the armor of light." Yeah. And as the days are getting to the longest night of the year, shorter days, that darkness is coming more and more around us. It's a wonderful reminder that we can put on the armor of light. So sometimes when we think of Advent and December comes, our attention is on getting ready for Christmas, not necessarily in the way the church had in mind, right? We make our big lists, and some of us send out cards, and some of us decorate the house, and we get a tree, and we put that up, and all the lights, and we buy presents for everybody, and we make zillions of cookies, and we exchange them, and those are all fun things getting ready for Christmas. But this lesson reminds us that that's not really what it's about. Advent is a new start and a new time to get ready for Jesus, either as coming again, or coming as a little baby, or just coming into our lives anew. So every year we cycle around. We start out and we tell the story of how Jesus came as a baby, and then in Epiphany we tell a lot of stories about how he manifested himself to be God's son, or to be God, all the miracles. And then in Lent we keep telling that story, and we remember how he healed, and we tell the story of his death, his passion and his death, and we tell the story of his resurrection. We go through all of it every year, and we cycle around. And in fact, every Sunday we do the same thing. Have you ever noticed? Every Sunday, especially in the Eucharistic prayer, we talk about God creating the world and people falling away from God, and God sending Jesus, and Jesus being born and doing his works and dying and rising. It's all there. We tell it over and over and over again. And nobody ever says, "Oh, I already know this one, don't worry." When it comes to Christmas, nobody says, "Oh, we don't need to celebrate Christmas this year. I remember the story. It's no big deal." No, we rehearse it, and we enact it, and we tell it. And there's a couple things about that. One is that you think of it as a cycle, but really it's kind of a spiral. So that every time we come back to it, because we're in a different place in our lives, it has a new meaning, or there's something else we can learn from it, some other way we can experience it. And that is my hope, that it's not just the old rehashing. It's that we come to it and we see it with new eyes every year, because we are, not the same person that we were a year ago or 10 years ago, perhaps. Who knows? So that's one thing. The second one is that this first Sunday of Advent and this apocalypse reading and all of that second coming idea is something that in some churches or some places they have a lot of emphasis on that, right? There are places where, has anybody actually read the Left Behind books or seen the? Okay, I never have. That's a big thing for some people, right? And in fact, I don't know if I've ever told you about this lovely gem, but a few years back there was a company that was formed, and you know, every so often somebody decides they know when the end time is going to be, right? And they pick it, there's a certain date and there are reasons, the Mayan calendar or whatever it is. And a lot of people buy into it, right? A lot of people think that's going to be it. And they're sure they're going to be gone. So this guy decided he might make a little money off of it, and he started a company called Eternal Earthbound Pets. And he said that he was a certified atheist. So when the rapture came, he knew that he would still be here. And when you, who had your, surety that this was, it turned out to be a hoax, but it was real. And I believe he even took some money. That if you knew you were going to be raptured and you were concerned about Rover, that you could pay him $130. And if it happened within the next 10 years, he promised to go and pick up Rover and take care of him. So, because you know you're saved, you know you'll be gone, but what's going to happen to your beloved pet? So, it's a thing. It doesn't seem to be so much a thing for us, except that it kind of is. Again, in that cycle, in that story that we tell all the time, every Sunday, we say, Christ has died, Christ is risen. Yeah. Or today, Eucharistic Prayer B that we're using, it's a little different. We say, we await his coming in glory. And it's in the Creed that we believe he will come again to judge the living and the dead. We know it. We say it. So how are we living like we know it? And that is the question. When we heard Glenn reading this reading, did anybody kind of wonder when he got to the part where Jesus says, truly I tell you, this generation will not pass away until these things have taken place? Did anybody notice that and think, okay, wait a minute. Lots of generations have passed since then, right? Probably 1,000 generations have passed since then. So what did he mean? And, because you've got to figure something out, right? Some scholars think that he meant, by generation, he meant those who oppose Jesus and his will. And actually, in Luke's gospel, Jesus uses that word generation repeatedly in that way. So it makes sense. He says, "O faithless and perverse generation, how long am I to bear with you?" And he says, this generation is an evil generation. I don't think he meant everybody was evil. So that's one way to think of it. But the other way, to me, is to think about the kingdom coming. That it is something that will happen in the future. That's something that we're looking forward to, that when Christ comes again, the kingdom comes. But also, it's already here. Also, our work is to bring the kingdom here now. It's that not yet and already, that both are the case. So that what we do to put on the armor of light and cast away the works of darkness, what we do to bring the kingdom here, just as we also pray every Sunday, your will be done, your kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven, that we are to do that work. That we are to do the work of justice. We are to feed the hungry and clothe the naked. We are to welcome the refugee. We are to do all those things in Matthew 25 when Jesus says, if you did this to the least of these, you did it to me. That is our work, to be Jesus' hands and feet and to do the work now, that the kingdom is already here, that every generation has passed and every generation has experienced the kingdom. And it's also coming. So this Advent, I invite you to renew your commitment to that, to renew your commitment to this beautiful story that we are in the midst of, to this life of Jesus, to following Jesus, to doing the work to bring Jesus' kingdom right here and now. In this room, out in Farmington Hills, out in the world where we are. And a renewed commitment to that might involve a resolution for Bible study, for prayer, for good deeds, for doing what we need to do to look after God's world. So I invite you to a new year of hope and hard work. Amen.